Page 28 of my family, Loose Leaf Paper Story. The pack is receiving their drinks at Outback Steakhouse.
I would say it doesn't look nearly as good as Longhorn, but it'll eat.
They have some anti-hate activists that are part of the documentary. They have a guy that led a really big hate group for Barney and led like the Barney bashing scene in 1993. He comes on, he gives his piece and stuff like that. It's really cool the different amount of people that they got for this documentary. It's really nice, and I like the way that they did it. I'm going off my notes right now. Backyard gang footage. So when we first heard about the documentary, a lot of us thought that it was going to be about the production of the show. It's not really. It goes into a lot of that, but it's not. That's not what it's about at all. At the same time, there is a lot of never before seen footage and photos from Barney and the Backyard Gang, including those first 3 tapes in that original costume. And it is crisp. It is beautiful. I love that we get to see stuff like that. What was it? It was a clip that they showed, and it was behind the scenes of the Backyard show. They were doing, Happy Meals, Sandy Beat, and Barney was there hiding behind the cardboard boxes, and the footage was there, and it pulled out, and you could hear the set. And when I saw that, my jaw dropped. I was like, I didn't think that they were going to show Backyard Gang footage this early. 1988, and it looks so good. It looks so good. They show photos of the behind the scenes making Three Wishes in that huge blue screen. They show, they show them making the cover art for A Day at the Beach. It's like, there's so much of it, and it's so cool. David Voss, again, as I said earlier, was there, and he put on my makeup, made sure that he used to be mine. And that was really cool. They introduced him as the original body actor of Barney, and he talks about that, which is, again, it's cool because it doesn't feel as though he talks about it all that much. He was with Barney for a long time. They had different events and appearances and shows and stuff. But he never talks about the fact that he was the original body actor for Barney, or at least not for what I've seen. So seeing him candidly talk about that was very wholesome. David Joyner. Now, this is something that I did not like originally. I had to sort of let it sit for a little bit. And it definitely got a lot better in the second episode. But the way they introduced him made sense and was also not the best handled, I feel. They introduced David Joyner, and someone, I think it's the director, it's somebody, the person says something along the lines of, people are nervous whenever we talk about you and Barney, and this kind of thing. And David Joyner says something very specific. He says, a lot of people are nervous now about me and Barney. And he talks about the part about him being a tantric massage therapist. That I didn't really have a problem with, right? Because of course, that's how a lot of people saw David Joyner after that article came out. And that's how a lot of people see him now, unfortunately, because a lot of people have this initial idea about what he does and that being all that it is. And so when that article came out, that very much changed the perception of what he is to a lot of people. So I didn't have any problems with them introducing him that way, right? He was Barney for a long time, during Barney's peak especially. So I didn't have a problem with introducing him that way. What bothered me a little bit was they filmed him doing his meditation, where he's like hands to the sky, he's like trembling and shaking and making noises and stuff like that. Interspliced with that was put with the casting crew of like the original Barney productions and stuff like that, saying things like, I don't know what it's about. Like that's not for me. Like I don't get it. Like whatever. Maybe we're not all meant to be understood like that, right? I don't know. I thought it was strange. And then they kept playing the same meditation clip over and over and over again, interspliced with the people saying things like that.
Woo-doo-be-doo, woo-be-doo-be.
It's very
Woo-doo-be-doo, woo-be-doo,
is not. I just
woo-be-doo.
wasn't really on with how that scene carried itself. It made it come off as though everyone was looking at him strange and saying, he's different, whatever, and then just keep playing the same clip. Like I get it, but like you do understand how that's gonna come off when you placing everything like this in the context that it needs. Especially when they said things like, it's about this, not about that. Especially when I'm around kids, like this, and that. And they really just like talk about it. They really like get in his face and ask him questions and all that kind of stuff. And he explains himself. But again, the way the scene carries itself with the context that it holds, it gives a weird perspective that I wasn't really all that into. And I just wait for it to be over. Just because I know what he was saying, but again, the way that the clips were placed made, I understand what people's perspective will be after this documentary, and I hope it's not like it was. I hope he's carried with a lot more respect. I hope he's given a lot more credit for what he did with Barney and the community. And again, like I said earlier, it gets a lot better in the second episode. It's just the first episode where he's introduced. I wasn't really the fondest of his initial bringing into the documentary. But as I said again and again, it gets better in the second episode. So that's whatever. Another thing that I thought was nice was that they talked about like the edginess in the 90s. You know, how the relation between people hating on Barney and like why they're hating on Barney. You know, in the 90s people were a lot more edgy. In the 90s was the introduction of a lot of kids shows that were very violent oriented. Power Rangers, they like Transformers, all that kind of stuff. You know, there was this huge emphasis on being quote unquote bad, being strong, being macho, all this kind of stuff. And in the 90s is when being gay was seen as an outwardly horrible thing, especially then in the 90s, right? And thought of Barney being this being that is supposed to be male, but also loving everyone, and being the bright purple color that he is, was seen as a target, a way of a vessel for people to hate through, and that being a lot of what played a hand in fueling that hatred and Barney bashing that went on. I don't remember, I think Steve Burns actually said, you know, how there was something broken about the world of Sesame Street, there was something broken about Bigfoot, there was something broken about all your favorite children's characters, but there was nothing broken about Barney. And I like the way that he touched on that, because that's a very specific thing that he pointed out, and it made a lot of sense. If you loved Barney, then you became a target, almost, especially if you were an adult. Mainly if you were an adult. They also touched on how, you know, as an adult, you know, with Sesame Street, there's a lot of things for both the kids and the adults to love, you know. But with Barney, it was mainly aimed at like a preschool mindset. So with adults, it's more of, well, there's nothing for me to love here, so I hate this. Why can't I enjoy it, you know? And a lot of the confusion stemmed from, and a lot of that confusion played the biggest hand, rather, in the Barney bash. And I really like how they got a bunch of, you know, the anti-hate activists together to talk about and sort of figure out why people were acting the way that they did in the 90s. That was a very nice, that was a very nice section that I enjoyed a lot. That was pretty much it for episode 1 that I wanted to talk about. That's all of my notes and everything that I had. Maybe if I remember something else later on, I'll bring it up. But like for episode 1, that was pretty much it. I thought it was fun. I thought that the episode was fine as it was. Again, there were a lot of things that I was very iffy about, but I thought episode 1 was fine enough. They ended by talking about Patrick Leach, and as I was saying earlier, the Patrick Leach situation to me very much felt like a vehicle, because throughout, of course, you know, Patrick Leach was the son, or is the son of Cheryl Leach, and you know, they were saying how growing up with your mom being the creator of Barney could leave a toll on you, and it's like, yeah, I can see that. At the same time, it didn't seem as though Patrick was really connected with the Barney brand at all. He wasn't like featured in anything, and he wasn't, you know, he wasn't like a role in the franchise. He was the reason that Cheryl created Barney, but he wasn't hands-on with Barney like Cheryl was, and then her husband and all that. But they continuously bring up how, you know, Patrick, he was the son of the creator of Barney, so he he must have been going through a lot, and I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was. And they just keep bringing up here and there how Patrick may have developed some aversion to Barney, this strange, or rather just growing up as like an